Good afternoon, it's Lee Cassidy from Tactile Technology, and we're introducing our speakers for our event on the 21st. So we've got Boris along from Diamante today, so I'll just bring Boris in with us. How are you doing, Boris?
Hi, good morning. Well, I guess good afternoon.
Well, what we're going to do is just get a bit of a picture of yourself and your background, and then we'll just have a quick, brief chat about your session next week and what you're going to cover in that. So tell us a little bit about yourself, your background in technology, how you got into that, and maybe something interesting that no one else knows.
Sure. Yeah, I've been in technology since I was in college and probably beforehand as well. I've been, kind of my transition has been relatively standard, I suppose, in technology, of starting as a IT admin and the gopher boy in my college to actually administering everything for the university, to moving on and moving kind of up, if you will, through the technology stack. But recently,
I bet you're too young to remember gophers, though, aren't you?
Yes.
I'm not.
Yeah. But yeah, so the recent years, kind of the interesting thing that kind of changed my career trajectory, if you will, recently was I worked on OpenShift quite a lot before OpenShift became the behemoth that it is today. It started with version 2, which I don't know how many people remember or have ever used version 2, but that was Red Hat's attempt at their own idea of what a container should be, and it was very bad. And then version 3 got announced, and I so happened to live in North Carolina, where Red Hat is based, and I had access to a lot of the engineers. And we spent, a good year being in constant contact and developing what eventually became the stable 3 release. And I had one of the first production version 3 clusters in the world.
Very good.
Yeah, and that kind of started me on my container Kubernetes journey. And then I left my previous employer, and I'm now been with Diamante going on 3.5 years, which for a Silicon Valley startup, I make this joke kind of a lot, but it is very true. I'm a dinosaur in startup culture. 3.5 years in a startup is a long time, but this is where
it flies quickly in a startup, doesn't it?
Yeah. It literally feels like I joined yesterday, and like so many things are improved and gotten better and changed and everything. So it's cool. It keeps you on your toes all the time.
So tell us a little about your session then that you're doing on the 21st. So you're doing a breakout session, and there is going to be a bit of a focus around containers for your session. So tell us a little bit about what you're going to cover.
Yeah, so containers obviously have been becoming more and more the forefront of everybody's mind as they have been getting foothold and stability and maturity of Kubernetes and just the general ecosystem over the last 3 years. Like a fun stat is KubeCon, which is like the big Kubernetes conference in the world. 3 years ago was like maybe 5,000 people, and the last KubeCon that we had, which was at this point almost 2 years ago, like live KubeCon that we had, there was over 12,000, and that's only in a span of 3-year change, which is a huge growth, right? And it just only speaks to how much the technology has truly changed the landscape. But with that change also comes the need for like rapid understanding and rapid ability to deploy and manage and deal with, do I want to do this on my own hardware? Do I want to go and buy something from Amazon or Google or whoever it may be? And like, what happens if I don't want to stick with the big boys because they start charging me a lot and I want to come back on my own solution? So what Diamante has been doing is, one, we have kind of solved that ease of use and rapid deployment problem. But recently we've also solved the, how do I manage this? How do I create RBAC around people using my resources. And that's one of I think I'm going to talk about, Diamante Spectra a lot, which allows you to rapidly adopt and transform your container journey and allow you to actually create governance on top of obviously the technological ease of use around containers.
Yeah, I think one of the problems with a lot of people, management, like the old term of we're going to use cloud. Well, it can mean so many things to so many people.
Yes.
That's become what's happened with containers and Kubernetes. Isn't it? We'll just do containers. We'll just do Kubernetes, but no one's actually considered what you do to do that. And looking at it to get into production with a reasonable size. Most organizations, it's going to take between 6 and 8 months to get to a point where it's stable, performance and things. If you're building it yourself, plus you've got to have the skills and the resources to do it. Yeah,
correct.
So
yeah,
the issues is how do I get up and running quickly with something that's stable and secure, without having to gain all those skills or educate people or pay for very expensive people, which Kubernetes, especially at the moment, is one of the highest skills that's out there at the moment because everybody needs them. So I think the focus really is how do we do it easily? How do we make sure that people who've never had much experience of Kubernetes before can actually spin up some containers? And also don't have to be thinking about kube control command line to do everything, because you really need to know what you're doing to do that, don't you?
Yeah. You don't want your end users to not necessarily get their hands dirty, but have to get their hands dirty if all they care about is deploying their application, managing their application, like the development lifecycle of their application. That's what they need to focus on, not on, okay, what kubectl command do I need to run? Like, how do I move this container to like somewhere else? Like, how what's the container's lifecycle? Nobody cares as the end user of a platform, right? Those are the kind of things that hopefully we'll talk about and showcase next week.
And I think also the people's use of containers and Kubernetes especially has changed because people are starting to use persistent volumes and stateful applications more in this environment, which again adds another layer of complexity if you're using a traditional Kubernetes distribution. But we're going to talk about how you can actually get around that and provide a much better and more stable storage platform for containers with PVs and PVCs as well.
Correct. Yeah. One of the problems that kind of got pushed along as Kubernetes got created, it was trying to solve a particular problem, and networking and storage were afterthoughts until about 2 years ago, which meant that for about the first 3 years of its existence, there was just kind of cobbled solutions and everything else. And one of the neat things about our storage layer and our network layer is that it does solve what has been a solvable problem and a solved problem in old world, if you will, but was just kind of left up in the air in the Kubernetes world until recently.
That's it. Well, thanks ever so much today. So all we want to do is give a quick introduction, so they put a face to a name and understand a bit about your background. We also wanted just to cover a few minutes on what you're actually covering in your session. So thanks ever so much for that. Hopefully loads of people are going to join us on the 21st, so they can go through some of those keynote speeches that we're having starting from 1 o'clock, plus also the breakout sessions where we're talking from anything from SQL Server and infrastructure through to containers and operations of them. And I believe also you've got, so one of your colleagues is going to talk about real world usage in banking and other areas as well. So I'm really looking forward to the sessions. I think it's going to be really great. So thanks ever so much again, Boris, and I shall see you on the 21st.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.